This will go off tomorrow. This is part of the slate tomorrow night, 7:09 Eastern Time tip as Purdue, the Boilermakers, getting ready to take on St. Peter's. And the interesting game here is, of course, St. Peter's, Ralph, is the Cinderella everybody loves to jump on board with here, taking down what? Kentucky, Murray State, and now Purdue is in their way. A lot of folks feel this is a big number at 12 and a half. What do you think about St. Peter's chances here?
It is a big number, and unfortunately, the matchups are just horrible for the Peacocks. You know, St. Peter's with a 11-10 game winning streak. Shaheen Holloway, their head coach. Let's see, where will he end up after this year? I'm going to guess Seton Hall, where he played. So, you know, that makes it the worst kept secret there is. But, you know, St. Peter's here last week on the show. I used him as a best bet on Kentucky. Unfortunately, I didn't call for the outright upset. It would have been a nice money line play. You know, and if you remember last week's show, I talked about Casey Nadufu. This kid's a 6'7" defensive marvel. He plays like he's 7 foot. He's top 10 in blocks in the country. But the problem is this. You know, when you're matched up against 6'10" Williams and 7'4" Edey for Purdue, they switch those two players. They always have them fresh. That's a matchup that I think is going to be an issue. St. Peter's, a very slow-paced team on offense, number 289. And if you want to compare them to an old-type offense that everyone remembers, they are really Princeton. You talk about back cuts. They take unique angles. They sprint through their cuts. You watch this team hustle, and you see how hard they play. I think they could keep the game closely. What concerns me is this. As I said, the height advantage. You look at St. Peter's, their average height, number 295 out of 358 teams. Their front line is 6'2", 6'7", 6'7". That's going against 6'5", 6'8", 6'10", and 7'4". That's the discrepancy that I'm going to worry about. What did Purdue do against Texas? They pounded the ball inside with their height advantage. They had 46 free throws compared to Texas's 12. So I am going to use this game as a best bet, but I am going to use the first half. We do give up some value in college basketball. The full game total, 133.5. I'm going to go under in the first half, 62.5. If Nadufu gets in foul trouble, I might live bet Purdue. But I think he stays out of foul trouble early. I think they run their screens and slow the ball down. I think Purdue makes multiple passes to try to get the ball inside. So I'm going to play first half under 62.5, and we'll see what happens in the second half of the game with a lot of free throws. But because of that free throw and height edge, again, I'll stick with the first 20 minutes of the game.
True David versus Goliath here, Steve. But it's interesting. This game's in Philly. If it's close in the second half, I got to believe that crowd going to get behind Cinderella here. And we've seen Purdue blow leads in the past before. So do you give these Peacocks any chance?
Yeah, it's interesting because Ralph was talking about how, you know, the difference between the first half, second half lines. Obviously, these tournament games we've seen across the board, these second half totals are about 9 to 10 points higher than the first half totals. And that's just because, you know, it's a do or die game. Teams leave it on the court. They foul a little extra because they have nothing else to play for. And that's why we see these totals higher. But the first half on the side here is 7. The game is 12.5. So that's a 5.5 for the second half. I think Purdue could actually pull away. If you're going to play Purdue, I think you're much better off playing the 12.5 than to play the first half -7 because, as Ralph said, they're going to get to the line a lot. They're going to hit more free throws down the stretch. So there might be some in-game opportunities here. I like Purdue to win this game. Mathematically, St. Peter's has an 11% chance of pulling the straight-up upset. So I don't think they're going to win this game. But it's a big number, and it's a little bit higher than I had hoped. One thing I will say as far as the free throw shooting, Ralph pointed that out. It was a tournament record for Purdue free throw attempts in that last game. It was just insane how often they got to the line. And it's going to probably happen again because St. Peter's, there are 358 Division I teams. St. Peter's opponents this season got the second highest percentage of total points from free throws than any other team in the country. They gave up the second highest amount of their points on defense from the free throw line. So Purdue is going to live at the charity stripe. It is not a good matchup. One final note, I hadn't mentioned this on any shows. I was just thinking about it being a Jersey City team. Every sports book in New Jersey has to be pulling for St. Peter's, Joe, because that means nobody could have bet on them in the state of New Jersey. I don't know. Maybe they push all those other bets, but if not, they have absolutely no liability on the Peacocks making a run because you cannot bet on college teams in the state of New Jersey. Just an interesting little tidbit there, but I think that ends this week. Purdue wins this one. They most likely pull away in the second half and cover.
Nothing scares me worse, Dave, than the words, I trust Matt Painter in the Sweet 16. But good to have you back. And also, before you tell us about this game, tell us what you have, if anything, up at WagerTalk.com, NHL or otherwise tonight.
Let me get through this quickly because I'm having connection problems today. It's a complete pain in the ass. I'm only paying for this shit. So, why would I expect it to work? And that's the business account, by the way. It's supposed to be, premier stuff. Anyway, I like Purdue. I lean at Purdue. I like enough to bet. I lean Providence, but not enough to bet it. I don't have any best bets at all today. I do have one NHL selection. Geared up for baseball right now. Look, my record speaks for itself in baseball. So if you want to sign up, do it now because you save a bunch of money. That's it. Best bets of the show is Purdue. It is an actual 2%, only 2% play, but I did actually bet Purdue. And that's it. I'll take my connection problems and scream at the cable company in like the next 2 minutes, and I'll let the guys handle it from here. Bye.
You got it, Dave. Appreciate it, man. Make sure you visit Dave over at WagerTalk.com. All right, so we got a few Matt Painter trustees here on the panel today. We'll see how that